Several videos ago, I shared with you all that I have been going through some medical issues with some unknown answers, that I was going to be going through some medical testing, and the results could be pretty scary, and that I was pretty scared. I'm at a point now that I feel a little bit more comfortable talking about that with you all and sharing with you the end result of those things. And I know that a lot of you have been praying for me, and a lot of you have been asking how things are going, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And today I'm going to shed some light on some of the questions you all may have, some of the things you may have been wondering, and just some of the emotions and things that I have been feeling. I'd like to preface a couple of things. First of all, these things are really sensitive and they're really personal, and I'm hoping to share them with you because you care about me, you care about us, our family, our homestead. And I know you've been worried, and so I want to be open and share things with you. But they're pretty private, so I would appreciate delicate feedback. But I'd also like to say that I grew up in a family whose parents worked in healthcare. And so there are lots of subjects that were discussed in my house that don't affect me at all, meaning like we would talk about really pretty gross things at the dinner table. So not many things gross me out. So with that said, I'm hoping to be pretty cautious about how I describe things and talk about things for those of you who might be a little bit more sensitive to the medical subjects. So I've really been dealing with two separate issues, two separate female issues. At one point, both of them were happening at the same time. So for a couple of years, I have been dealing on and off with some female bleeding issues. The worst of that happened over the summer in late August of this year, where I needed to actually be rushed to the emergency room because just the sheer volume of blood loss. Now, throughout a year or two, I've had 2 biopsies, many ultrasounds to figure out what was going on. And in the end, in September, my doctor and I decided that the best course of action prior to surgery was to have an IUD implanted. That includes a hormone that will help stabilize things and prevent me from continuing to bleed abnormally for, ever. During the adjustment time frame when I just had that IUD, I actually was bleeding every day for about 6.5 weeks. In the middle of that, I started getting a nagging feeling that I needed to go have a mammogram. In 2011, I had a lump in my breast that needed to be biopsied, and it came out to be non-cancerous. And in 2012, I had another scare that ended up also not being cancer. But that last mammogram in 2012 was the last time I had had a mammogram, and I have a family history of breast cancer. My dad lost his mom when he was just a young man. She was 43 years old, had my dad and a younger daughter, and she lost the battle with breast cancer. So growing up, I knew that I needed to take breast cancer for me very seriously. Life got busy, and I got confident that nothing could possibly be wrong until September of this year, when I had the nagging feeling that something was wrong. I had a mammogram on Halloween, and shortly after that, they called me and said that there were abnormalities in one of my breasts and I needed to come back for more mammogram films. I went back had more mammogram films, and that day they told me that things were still very suspicious and I needed to have biopsy. What they saw was a pretty large cluster of microcalcifications in a pattern that were very suspicious. I went home in a state of panic and fear and dove into researching what microcalcifications were, what they can turn into, what that can lead to, the different types of breast cancers, survival rates, breast cancer staging. What I found out was that clusters of microcalcifications can be nothing, but they can also be very serious. I learned that 65 to 80% of microcalcifications turn up to be nothing. But to me, that meant 20 to 35% of them are something significant. And while I knew that there was a greater chance that it couldn't be me, I also knew that the 20 to 35% of cases have women with faces and feelings and families and children, and there's no reason why a 20 to 35% chance couldn't include me. I couldn't help think about the what ifs, and most of what I was thinking about was how all of this could affect my children and how it could affect my husband. And the milestones that my kids have coming up for them, graduating high school, getting married, having babies. And I just became consumed. I became consumed with how I could still be a part of their lives if I wasn't here anymore. What could I still do now that they could keep with them forever? I know that sounds ridiculous. I know it sounds ridiculous because I hadn't had a biopsy yet. I hadn't had test results. I hadn't heard anything. This could be absolutely nothing, but I think it's human nature to start thinking about your mortality and what effect that could have on the people who are left behind, your loved ones, your children, your husband, your family. I was much less concerned about what was going to happen to me because I know what's going to happen to me. My concern was what would happen to my family, what would happen to my girls, and how could I plan ahead of time to still make them feel like I was part of their lives even as they grew up. And like I said, graduated high school, got married, had their babies. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about how Kevin would handle it. My sweet, precious husband.
who I am convinced was brought to me by the Lord to save me, to help me be saved. How would he do? What would he do? It's hard stuff. It's really hard stuff. And when you're in the middle of all of that emotion and all of those thoughts and that thought pattern, it doesn't matter if you haven't even had the biopsy yet. It doesn't matter if you haven't gotten your test results back. It doesn't matter. Because at that point, it's just consuming. On Tuesday of last week, I went to have my biopsy. And I wasn't nervous at all for the procedure. I've had needles stuck in me before, and I've had babies, and I've had surgery, and I wasn't worried at all about the procedure. All of that was fine. They let me know that they would call me with results on Thursday before 3. But I might hear from them Wednesday. Those were hard days, waiting. This was one of the toughest things I've ever had to endure. I've gone through some rough things, but so far this is one of the toughest things I've had to endure. The waiting, and having a family, having teenage girls, and being young, being 43, and Kevin being young. It's been really hard. So Wednesday was hard, waiting. I didn't hear on Wednesday. I checked my phone a million times a day. I didn't sleep very well that night, and Thursday came, and we figured that we wouldn't hear anything before 9, before business hours. So we made sure to get out and do chores and do our milking before 9. And at 9:30, they called. Kevin was so sweet, he wouldn't leave me, wouldn't leave my side. And the phone rang, and I had a piece of paper and a pen ready to write down whatever it was, because I was afraid that either way I would be too emotional to remember what they said. So I was writing, and I heard from the nurse, and she said everything was benign. And the tissue samples showed fibrocystic changes, which is normal with aging. And that was the best news. I think that Kevin and I hugged for minutes after that. So everything is fine. Everything is fine. I'm scheduled for another mammogram in 6 months so they can make sure everything is still fine. But today, everything is fine. While I was in the middle of all of this is when Jamie Bauer from An American Homestead passed away. She passed away over Thanksgiving. And I had asked you all for prayers for her and her family the day that I asked you for prayers for myself. In one of the last posts that Zach Bauer made on their Patreon account about Jamie, he was talking about what we can all learn from situations that we go through like this. And he mentioned that he believes and that it teaches in the Bible that we go through these things so that we can experience them, learn from them, and then we can feel more empathy and show more empathy to other people who are going through things just like this, and so that we can help them and console them. And I think there's so much truth to that. As I was going through some of the difficult times, there were people that came to me either from church or friends or emails, comments from you all about your experiences, about what happened with you, good and bad, positive results, negative results, with some really amazing encouragement to me. Shortly after I put out the video asking for prayers, I was actually even too emotional to read comments. I was too emotional to read emails, good or bad. I was just having a really hard time with everything. I've been able to go back and read a lot of those, and I really appreciate them. I'm so thankful for the people who came forward to express empathy and comfort, and I hope that I have learned to do that for others in the future. So many people prayed for me, and I felt that. I hadn't slept in days. I hadn't been able to keep it together emotionally, and I felt a real sense of peace and calm, and I was able to sleep, and I really believe that that was from you all. So a special thank you to all of you across the world who have been praying for me and lifting me up, because it made a huge difference. I want to say thank you to some special people in my life who really stepped up and prayed for me, came to me, and would call and text to check up on me. My absolute best homestead friend, Brittany from Gilbert, thank you so much. Andrea from BW Family Farm, Wanda from Deep South Homestead, Leah Peebles, Pat Morris, Lisa Lofton, Brenda Strong, Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead. Thank you, ladies, so much. So now I can really smile again. I can really be excited again. I can't wait to plant my spring garden. I'm excited for Christmas. I'm excited to spend some more good family time with the girls and with Kevin. The last conversation that I had on the phone with my friend Brittany from Gilbert, near the end of the conversation, she said, "Sarah, it's time to get back to work." And that is so true. It's time for me to get back to work, and I can't wait to continue bringing you all along. Thank you so much for lifting me up when I didn't want to get up. Thank you so much for telling me how much you care about me. Thank you so much for lifting me up in prayer and for thinking of me. I appreciate it so much. Until next time, you guys, thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. Thank you for caring about me enough. Take care. God bless. Even in the coldest part of the year, I find a nice surprise. These flowers are still blooming, and so am I.